Hi everyone and welcome to Bear Clooney Watches channel, genuine watch enthusiast channel. On this channel, we search for perfect timepiece, which most likely we will never find, but search itself is a lot of fun. I present watches on this channel, which I researched, I purchased, and I experienced in a real meaning of ownership. So when I'm presenting these timepieces, you can count on honesty and integrity. Listen, you might not share my taste and my opinion about certain watch, but you know for a fact there is no hidden agenda. You know for a fact that when Bear Clooney presents the watch, it is from the pure love of that watch. So please subscribe to my channel and support someone who is just like you. Now, from the introduction to today's video, you could see that we are having a battle of three exceptional divers, high-end divers. As a Rolex fanboy, at one point in my collecting, I felt the need to step out of the boundaries of the Rolex divers, which pretty much rule this segment of the watches, just to experience something else. Naturally, the first high-end diver that I was attracted to was a iconic Blancpain 50 Fathoms. And I did a video presentation on that piece, which was the first high-end diver that has joined my collection. The next one was JLC Master Compressor Navy SEALs Limited Edition. And you know what? I was thinking about doing a presentation on that watch itself, and I am still going to do that because watch is beautiful and it deserves special attention. But when my third high-end diver arrived to my collection, which is Rolex Sea-Dweller 50th anniversary redline, I put them next to each other and I thought, wow, what a trio. What a trio of very impressive Swiss-made high-end divers. And I thought, what a cool opportunity to actually do a bit of a comparison, competition, battle video between three monsters of the deep sea. And here we are at Bear Clooney Watches studio. And in front of me are three truly beautiful, truly wonderful high-end divers. And for those who know me a little bit, and they know my affinities when it comes to watches, there obviously is not going to be a surprise to have these three divers in my collections. My affinities when it comes to watches are predominantly in a segment of the what we call sports professional watches. I also love divers in addition to GMTs and chronographs. Those would be three segments that I am always very excited about. And when it comes to these three divers, they are very interesting from the perspective they belong to three very prestigious brands. So I thought it was very interesting to put them together and compare them, discuss my thoughts about them, my recent experiences and how I feel after owning these three pieces. They arrived in exactly this order to my collection, with Blancpain being the first one to join my collection approximately 3 months ago. I did the presentation video on it. Watch that attracted me predominantly because of its aesthetics and function. A watch that spoke to me from the perspective of its heritage being extremely important component of the divers watch market. Watch that takes a claim to be a first diver that managed to beat Rolex Sub by a couple of months. And watch with a beautiful handmade, hand-assembled movement with gorgeous case with really cool nylon strap, watch that in many ways impresses. And that's what originally really attracted me to it, and I wanted to experience that. The next in this collection came JLC the Master Compressor, Navy SEALs limited edition, which was a result of, again, a very interesting look of the watch. I was fully aware that JLC is not the company that puts predominant efforts in the aspect of competing on a diver's watch market, but this one had a couple of things that excited me, and that would be this wonderful rubberized bracelet, this prestigious brand, which some tend to call watchmakers watchmaker. And I kind of know watchmakers in real life, never heard them to say that. So I'm going to change that into enthusiast watchmaker. It seems that enthusiasts are really enthusiastic about JLC as a brand. Now, mind you, when it comes to dress pieces from this brand, they really do less than nothing for me. But this watch spoke to me in its aesthetics, in its design. Also, the size was the most reasonable from this line. That's this specific one, and it's 42 millimeter, and it really did not disappoint me from that perspective. It's a nice watch. It's quite wearable. It serves great as a casual watch as well, and this is how this watch originally came to my attention and joined my collection. And latest edition was the Rolex 50th anniversary Sea-Dweller with this beautiful red Sea-Dweller riding on the dial. Watch that simply, for me as the Rolex enthusiast, was inevitable arrival. I mean, even having the Rolex sub, Rolex Sea-Dweller is the king of the divers. I also do have a James Cameron, but I find it that it's not the best solution in the aspect of how the sizable watch is resolved. So this 43 millimeters, in simple terms, is, in my humble opinion, the best proportionally resolved large watch. And if you feel that you want to experience larger watch on your wrist that is proportionally correct, I would not go further than putting a Rolex Sea-Dweller 43 millimeter on your wrist. So here we go. Three great watches, three watches that I had a chance to have in my collection for 3-4 months. And how do I feel about them? Well, I mentioned on the Blancpain that it is a watch with highly respectable, this is, by the way, Blancpain 50 Fathoms Automatique 5015. It's a 45 millimeter casing, stainless steel with sapphire crystal glass, with beautiful dial, with bezel that I think is just gorgeous, and it has a power reserve of 120 hours. It has a date complication. It has a Faraday cage, and I really like this sail canvas strap. When it comes to JLC, the Master Compressor, Navy SEALs, we have the watch with the in-house made JLC automatic mechanical caliber 899 movement, which has actually only 43 hours of power reserve and gold-weighted automatic rotor. Like all JLC master watch movements, it bears seals of the rigorous 1,000 hours control, which is all in-house testing for quality, durability, and accuracy in each movement that they sell. The functions of the movement are the time and the date, and operating the crown is a bit different than the standard screw-down crowns. And this is the one where basically you lock and unlock, and you will see, sorry, there we go. So now it's unlocked and now it's locked. Kind of unique solution to the issue of securing the depth resistance of the watch. It's really easy enough to use, and it is a brand that's highly respected among the watch enthusiasts. Most people will never see this movement. On the back there is no display. It's actually Navy SEAL seal, and it is a limited edition. This watch is still with a movement that is for sure finished in the highest level of Jaeger LeCoultre finishes, and it has a nice level of decoration, and that's something that for you is there to know and appreciate, even though it is not displayed. Now, good friend of mine calls this watch tank with the ballerina movement. And I think one of the reasons he does that is because it is actually kind of tiny, short power reserve movement, which is relatively complicated and somehow delicate. It has its redeeming features, but let's discuss a little bit those negatives. I would say that it is a small movement coming in only 26 millimeter wide. So this basically movement would even fit a lady's watch that's less than 34 millimeters wide. So my presumption really would be that JLC designed this to be a kind of all-rounder movement, so they can drop it in every competitively priced watch with a date. It runs at 4 hertz and has a power reserve of 43 hours, and that's not really impressive. I would say actually my experience has been more like less than 43 hours, to be honest with you. And often it runs out probably, I'd say sometimes like I would say 36 hours would be power reserve I personally experienced. Now, kind of, I would say that's relatively lame in my opinion. Now, the story about this watch, this is something that kind of intrigued me and attracted me to this piece. I heard a story from Timasso, who is a huge JLC fan. So take that with a grain of salt, because when huge fanboys of the brand are talking about their favorite watches, they tend to exaggerate things slightly. And in this case, the story goes that upon testing the prototype watches, the Navy SEALs had 2 major complaints and feedback about the watch. First, the bezel would fall out too easily and needed to have a much more secure fit. And secondly, the case was way too shiny, with all the polished surfaces attracting way too much attention. So JLC basically came up with this version, brushed the top of the lugs and the case profile. You will notice how this is a total contrast to Blancpain 50 Fathoms, with being very shiny, very luxurious, very glitzy, very fancy, very shiny. And this watch being more under the radar and more like a Navy SEAL-like, right? So they kind of did that. They brushed the top of the lugs and the case profile. And then they achieved that benchmark that Navy SEALs requested. But they did still leave the wide, deep polished bevels on the lugs that you can see right here. Because luxury is still a luxury, right? and on all the corners of the watch. So, they kind of obliged with the demand from Navy SEALs, yet they still wanted to showcase their ability in high-end polishing. So there is a kind of explanation why this watch looks the way it does. So I have a feeling it's almost like somebody at JLC said, well, we'll make the lugs pretty because that's what we do. Navy, yeah, whatever. So I like it. I personally like it. I'm not Navy SEAL. I still appreciate luxury components of the watch and fine touches. And I kind of have this story imagined in my head, in my idea, how this all went, and it kind of makes me laugh. It's just a self-entertainment, for a lack of a better word. Now, when it comes to the SeaDweller, I'm warning you, I am the Rolex fanboy, and most of you know that. So Rolex cannot do much wrong with me. But you know what? In this watch, they did really so many things right. This bracelet and proportions to this watch are just perfect. I would say that the new movement, which is 3235 caliber, is a new generation movement, which is entirely developed and manufactured by great company of Rolex. This self-winding mechanical movement is at the forefront of the art of watchmaking. And this new Rolex caliber 3235 is based on the architecture of the movement inside Rolex flagship, the Day-Date 40. We typically know this is as the Rolex President watch, released a year before. The two mechanisms share similar features, although obviously the 3235 of the President watch has an additional 3255 of the President watch would have the additional day complication. But when it comes to architecture of the movement, this is what this watch and Day-Day President are sharing. The caliber itself has replaced more than 90% of the parts of its predecessor, Rolex's longest running and most successful movement, which was 3135, and which you can find in your sub. So what would be the most interesting thing that is part of this movement is the new caliber 3235 chronergy. There is a new type of escapement, which is known as a chronergy, and the escapement is the part of the watch that helps regulate the power delivered from mainspring via the oscillator. It consists of two main components, a pallet fork and escape wheel. So that ticking kind of sound or impression you have when you bring the watch closer to your ear is the teeth of the pallet fork engaging and disengaging kind of like this. So those teeth go like that, and they are engaging and disengaging with the escape wheel. And this slowly releases the energy, one tooth at a time. And this new system, this new chron energy, is an improved version of the most common type of the mechanism called the Swiss lever escapement. The escape wheel was skeletonized, and it's using a cutout design that greatly reduces its overall weight and therefore its inertia. So the pallet fork teeth are only half as thick as before. So imagine now they are more thin, and the contact surfaces on the escape wheel have doubled. So the modifications, along with shifting the components to be geometrically offset, have increased its efficiency by 15%. And by constructing the pieces from nickel phosphorus, they became highly resistant to magnetic fields. So they don't need a Faraday cage. So there you go. As well, there's the new escapement, another major innovation with the Rolex caliber 3235, concerns the mainspring barrel. This caused so much discussion on the forums, in the Facebook groups, when the first whispers of a 3-day power reserve came out. And Rolex was able to maintain the barrel's original size by having the thickness of its walls. Also, the new monoblock shaped rotor on the self-winding module rotates on a ball bearing to enhance its speed. This allows for more rapid winding of the longer, high-capacity mainspring inside. So there you go. This is a fantastic watch who represents achievement in really superior movement, depth resistance, but it achieves a great aesthetic solutions to a larger watch, great ratios, great proportions, and watch truly wears truly beautiful on your wrist. Well, while saying that, why don't I showcase it for you so you can actually see what I'm talking about? As you can see, my wrist is 7.25 inches in its diameter, and watch is wearing wonderful on my wrist. I am so happy with it. No shape or form, it actually it's taking favorite place on my wrist over the Rolex sub, at least for the moment. Might be a honeymoon period, but I really love how this watch feels on the wrist, how this bracelet feels on the wrist, and so on. Now, while I'm showing you how this watch looks on the wrist, let's do the same thing for the Blancpain. Sorry, not Blancpain, JLC. You see, it has this butterfly clasp, which is cool. It has a dual extension on each side, so you can really adjust and fine-tune this watch to the size of your wrist. But look how nicely this wears, and this is a Master Compressor that is absolutely gorgeous and truly attracts me in its aesthetics. So even though it has a ballerina movement, it has a ballerina heart, I think this is one very cool watch. And in its design, in its look, this bracelet is the most unique I ever seen. This rubberized bracelet is just, each link is covered with rubber, and it just feels so comfortable, and it truly looks cool. And then we're getting to the first one in this group, which is the on the nylon strap, which is kind of cool, or kind of actually very cool. I like it a lot. And let me put it on so you can actually see how it looks on the wrist. It's slightly big, eh? It's a large watch. It's almost like you have to say to yourself, it's almost like when you're wearing a Panerai. You have to convince yourself, well, this is Panerai, this is a historically large watch, and I have to accept it, and it looks cool, and I love it, and so on. A very similar approach with Blancpain 50 Fathoms, at least this 5015, but it is a beautiful watch. It is very luxurious. It is definitely, I would say, a perfect example of what people like to call luxury segment of the diving watches. Now, while I was talking about movement here and movement here, I didn't really touch on the Blancpain, except saying it is a fantastic movement, which is handmade, hand-assembled. It's automatic winding movement. Diameter of the movement is 31 millimeter, I think. Thickness is 5.65 millimeters. Power reserve is impressive, 120 hours, achieved with 3 barrels. It is a free-sprung glue cider balance. It has 35 precious rubies, It consists of a 222, easy number to remember, of the hand-finished parts. And the finish on the moment is, how would I call it, even though it's not displayed, it's industrial finish. It's industrial finish. It's not much different in its finish than, let's call it, Rolex finish. I would say that from these three movements, and neither one is displayed, the nicest finish is most likely on this ballerina movement in the middle. So, how do I feel about these watches? Well, let me tell you, I love them. I really love them. And no watch is perfect, because search for perfect timepiece will continue, and that's an awesome part of our watch enthusiast lives. There are things I don't like about this watch. I wish it's a little bit smaller. I wish that the wobble on the bezel here is a little bit better. I wish that they don't have this Invicta style writing on the side. Okay, so that would be kind of that. On this one, I wish that it has a little more robust movement. Watch as a watch is quite cool. It achieves this Navy SEAL feel for me, and I really like that under the radar look. It's so cool. It's so nice on the wrist. Size is perfect, and I love this bracelet. And I think I'm gaga over this SD43. Historically very important watch, 50th anniversary for the Sea-Dweller. Best bracelet on the market. Love how they respected the dial, and they went with the not maxi dial on this watch. Yet obviously achieved a great legibility. The bezel is absolute perfection. That's one thing I don't like. This is a 60 click. And I don't know, 60 click doesn't do it for me. And it's also kind of, I would say this is weakest bezel from the three. But it doesn't ever move like a Blancpain. Blancpain is a little bit wobbly. And this one is just fantastic in its being firm, being really Navy SEAL-like, but 60 clicks for me doesn't do it. Now this is symphony. This is symphony. Listen to this. Beethoven's symphony, truly. And there you go. I mean, I love these watches. Oh yeah, when it comes to the what's it called, the illumination, I think, in my humble opinion, the coolest luminescence is on the Blancpain. I love how the bezel lights up. Well, we'll shut the light off anyway. And let's kind of take a look what illumination on these watches look like. Let's take a look. If you see what I mean, I would say when it comes to luminous component of the watch to these three pieces, I would say that Blancpain is just superior. I would say second place would be Rolex Sea-Dweller, and then comes the JLC Master Compressor. This video has gone quite long. My apologies, but I got excited talking about three fantastic watches. Feel free to give me your opinion on them and in which order do you see them, which one would be your choice. I made here three choices. I'm happy really with all of them. Neither is perfect. If I have to, and I always do, Rolex Sea-Dweller is definitely my favorite among these three watches. Rolex Sea-Dweller 43 is by far best resolved large watch, and I enjoy wearing it tremendously. So there you go. These are three historical, three cool, three great brands. I love to hear your opinion, and I'm going back to Bear Clooney's cave to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed this comparison video. Ultimately, these are three exceptional watches, and you might not share my opinion. But in the same time, it is so cool to see them next to each other. At the end, I would just like to thank you for spending this time with me, for being on my channel. I hope you'll subscribe, and at the end, please don't forget to click on like, and all the best to all of you.